Di ba natawag? Di kasi nakikinig.
Okay, so once again, I'm your lead moderator. So na-mute po kasi ako. Ako po ngayon ang lead moderator for today. So please, nakakasama po ako sa na-mute. I'm so sorry. Okay, so once again po, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following officials of Schools Division Office. To our Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Jeneline Rose B. Corpus, to our Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Sir Freddy V. Avendaño, and Engineer Walter A. Padilla. To our City Government Assistant Department Head 3, Dr. Jesusa R. B. Chong, OIC, CID Chief, Dr. Ebenezer A. Beloy, to our SGOD Chief, Dr. Maria Teresa A. Namoro, to our SGOD's Education Program Supervisor, Sir Arnel Peralta, to all Education Program Supervisors, Public Schools District Supervisors, Unit and Section Heads, School Heads, other SDO personnel, magandang buhay po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to our second session of Research FLEXI, virtual lecture series on conducting research. So once again, I'm your lead moderator. I'm Sharon S. Gorospe, District 1 representative of Research Core Group. To start with, may I request everyone to please put ourselves in the presence of our Lord for an invocation, followed by singing of nationalistic song. Thank you for the blessings us today with this wonderful opportunity to meet virtually and learn together in this awesome leap cycle. May your blessings of wisdom and guidance be upon us all for the sharing and for the sharing knowledge and skills by our resource speakers, facilitators, and moderators. May all of us learn together, upgrade our competencies, and capacitate us to be of help in the development of our learners, lives, and communities with the spirit of true love and generosity. May we now humbly commit every part of this webinar to you as we all bring you to glory, honor, and praises for your kingdom and holy name's sake. All this I pray in the precious name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Yan na. Okay na.
Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin kong nagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran. Ang laya mo'y nabantayan, Pilipinas kong mahal. Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin kong nagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran. Ang laya mo'y mabantayan, Pilipinas kong mahal.
Okay. So once again, magandang buhay po sa inyong lahat. Tayo po ngayon ay masaya. Ito po ay huling araw ng ating online class at ngayon po ay nandito po tayo once again sa ating Research FLEXI. So maraming salamat po muli sa inyong pagbibigay ng oras, paglalaan ng oras upang mag-attend po dito sa ating lecture series. Okay, so I hope so lahat po tayo nakapagpasa na ng task 1 natin. It's really important that we have done that task 1 because we can conceptualize for the next task, and maybe this time after the speaker magkakaroon na tayo ng task 1. So since kapag lahat na develop na po natin yung task na yon, so isang magandang pong proposal na po ang mako-conceptualize natin, magagawa po natin. Okay po? So once again, welcome to Research FLEXI Session 2 Virtual Lecture Series on Conducting Research. Okay, so bago po tayo magpatuloy sa ating pong Research FLEXI, tawagin ko po muna si Ma'am Cheryl F. Doliano, Master Teacher 1 ng San Bartolome High School for our virtual etiquette.
Okay, good afternoon po sa lahat.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon, Ma'am Sharon, and good afternoon po sa ating lahat. I know that this time is a critical time kasi katatapos lang natin kumain. Diba po? Pero let me just give some of the virtual etiquette for today. Find a quiet space that is free from any disturbances. Do not make distracting sounds and okay, keep your microphone on mute until it's your time to speak. Turn it on only once addressed by the speaker. Please check your mic icon on the lower left side of your screen. If it doesn't have a red slash on the icon, this means that your mic is on. So always please check those icons. Then turn camera off if experiencing difficulty in connection and if not necessary. Do not shout and interrupt the speaker. In case there is an urgent matter, send a private message or use the chat box to raise your concerns. And last, be courteous to other participants. Listen attentively. Participating actively is very much appreciated. So that's all for our virtual etiquette. I will give back the virtual floor to Ma'am Sharon. Thank you po.
Yes, thank you Ma'am Shirley Doliano. Kahit ako kanina na-mute na din. Okay.
Opo, na-mute po ako.
Na-mute ako din. Okay. So since almost 2 weeks na nakabakante tayo sa ating research FLEXI, and of course siguro for some reasons yung ating pong ginawang task 1 at it served as a review for what we had taken last first session, I mean. So this time to give a brief a review or recap for this for the last session 1. This time I will call on the Master Teacher 1 of Commonwealth High School, none other than si Ma'am B. Pascual.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Sharon, for that introduction. Okay, to our dear SDO officials, to our dear fellow FLEXI organizers and coordinators headed by our dear Sir Ian Magabilin, to our very competent speaker, Dr. Paz Morales, and to all of you, dear research enthusiasts, a blessed afternoon. I am tasked to deliver the recap of our research FLEXI first session last October 16, 2020. Our speaker, Dr. Paz Morales, presented the action research process, the action research family, design and planning. Why there is a need for research and publication. So in line with the Education 4.0, our goal is to develop our learners ready in the workforce they will be needing in the future to become productive contributors of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, to mold our learners to be self-directed through different learning modalities despite the situations we are in, which is described by our speaker as a VUCAD, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and delayed feedback or diversity. Dr. Paz reiterated that we as educators must prepare our learners' experiences and changing the paradigm in teaching through innovative researches. We must improve the standing of the Philippines from rank 50 in researches in the world. We can contribute through delivering quality education. Dr. Paz also presented the flow of action research, from the researcher's idea to planning and finally to action. She also mentioned the history of the development of action research from the first to fourth generation. She said that action research is carried out by teachers in his or her own class with his or her students to improve some aspects of learning, teaching, and management. She also mentioned the AR family, namely the action science or the AS, the action learning or the AL, appreciative inquiry or the AI, community-based AR or the CBAR, participatory action leadership action research or PALAR, youth participatory action research or the YPAR, and the participatory action research, which is the PAR. She also made mention on the modes of action research, which are the results, technical, practical, and emancipatory. The key characteristics of action research are as follows. Underscores a dynamic process with a specific plan of action and advocate research sharing. She also discussed with us the general steps. First, determining if action research is the best design to use, identifying the problem of the study, and finally, locating resources to help the information the researcher will need. In terms of the planning action research, our resource speaker provided a checklist, which served as our first entry task as output, which includes your observation or actual situation in the field, specific national concerns, research agenda to which the observation is anchored, working title, your focus or your initial questions, and intended action to address the observation or initial question. The last part of the session is the presentation of the outputs. And these are our presenters. Sir Kenneth Baluyot of Cruz Naligas High School, Sir Ronel Aljan Collado of Holy Spirit Elementary School, Ma'am Jam Restubog of San Francisco High School, and Sir Ramel Aquino of Manuel Rojas High School. That is all. Thank you very much. Stay safe and God bless us all. Thank you, Ma'am Sharon.
Thank you once again, Ma'am Catherine Pascual, Master Teacher 1 of Commonwealth High School. And now without further ado, so let us all welcome our speaker, Dr. Marie Paz E. Morales.
Magandang hapon, magandang buhay, sabi nga nila. Can I share my slide? However, I cannot access the share slide. Wait a minute. Yeah, okay. Dali lang balik siya. Aha. Am I given the
Naka-follow up ba? Follow up mo din sa
the option to share?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Kaso
Yes, ma'am.
hindi ko siya ma-access actually. I'll have to leave and then go back. Wait lang.
Okay, so habang hinihintay po natin na restart po ang ating speaker. So, may request for those nakatapos po sa task 1. Okay, mag-chat, punta po tayo lahat sa chat box. Tingnan nga po natin kung mag-thumbs up po lahat po ng nakatapos po doon sa task 1 or yung nakapag-submit po sa atin. Unahin po natin yung mga sa CD1. Sa CD1 po, sino po ang mga nakapagpasa sa inyo ng task 1? Thumbs up ka po tayo. Okay.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes,
Pasensya na po.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so magandang hapon ulit sa inyong lahat. So it's a 2-week period before we get to see each other again. So it's day 2 of our series, Research Flexi. We will be focusing on planning my AR. I have sent Sir Ian task 2. So yung task 2 natin, titingnan natin kung mako-complete natin ngayon. We hope to complete it because of the fact that you have already submitted your task 1. Okay. So, can we start? Okay na po ba tayo?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. So, before we start, I'll stop my sharing and then I'll give you something here. Okay. Can you see my screen right now? Can you log on to
Yes, ma'am.
www.menti.com and kindly use this code 9477766. Okay. And then you will be asked to answer or fill in this question. There are 2 questions that I have prepared. So ito munang isa. Ayan, marami ng words. Let's see how you feel. Many of you feel great. Saan ko ba i-attribute yung great? Dahil end of the week na? Bakasyon na hanggang Monday? Okay, motivated. Awesome. Ang dami. Okay, okay. That's nice. Inspired. Happy but tired. Okay, at least may happy. Kahit tired. Inspired. Apprehensive. Bakit kaya? Okay lang daw siya. Yung isa naman ay love. Yung isa ay hungry. Hindi ka pa ba kumain po? Merienda po. My time. But a lot of us feel happy, excited, good, great, blessed, motivated, awesome. And so the size of the word tells us that this particular words, ito yung mga malalaki, maraming sumagot ng ganyan. No? Okay. Hopeful. Okay, tired. Tired but happy. Privileged. Super busy. Oo nga, daming ginagawa. Ano po, pagsagot pa lang ng mga estudyante. Okay. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the next. This is the next slide or next question. How was your day 1 and what have you learned? So, yung unang sagot nyo dun sa box, how was your day 1? Yung pangalawa naman, what have you learned? Okay pa? You missed day 1. Sino yun? Basics of research, informed. Oh, missed day 1. How to plan my action research. Okay. Okay. Feeling incomplete? Oh, parang maraming nakamiss ng day 1. At least marami ring enlightened and productive. Okay. Pero malaki talaga yung miss day 1. Ayan, mas malaki na si, ay, nawala ulit. It's very nice to have a word cloud, di ba? Yan, patry nyo yan sa mga estudyante nyo. Enjoy sila. O baka hindi na kayo magklase, yan na lang ang gawin natin. Okay. Did you enjoy our activity? Short activity? Tapos na pala tayo. Ano, hindi pa. Maraming pa tayong i-discuss. Okay. And productive, informative, awesome. Miss Day 1, excited. Okay, thank you very much for all your answers. So we can move on to our discussion. Stop sharing ko po muna to. And we go back to my slide. Okay, so we're done with that and with that. And where does AR belong? Saan nga ba makikita sa mga bagay-bagay ang AR? Take a look at action research. We have a different set of things that we have to consider when we talk about action research. So before moving on, let's review the different designs that we are familiar of. One is the quantitative design, we have the qualitative, and the mixed design. So ito lang po yung nilagay kong tatlo. Basically, sila naman po yung foundational designs sa research that we are familiar of. So pag sinabi natin quantitative design, we have a predetermined output. I mean, you know where you are being dragged into. It's instrument-based questions. You have performance data, attitude data, observational data, census data. Those are the things that you get. You need to involve statistical analysis and interpretation. But for qualitative designs, normally we have an emerging method. So for emerging method, these are the things that you have prepared, but then due to certain situations that participants give you, probably you evolve because of them, okay? We have open-ended questions. So you gather interview data, observation data, document data, and even audiovisual data. More often than not, you deal with text and image analysis. You have patterns, themes, and some other kinds of interpretation. Mixing those two, you have mixed designs. So both are predetermined and emerging methods come in. Both open-ended and close-ended. We have multiple forms of data drawing on all possibilities. You may use a statistical analysis. You also have a cross-database interpretation. So that's how we differentiate the three designs. Now, where do we find AR? So, trying to map all these designs, we have here the three designs. Under them, we have the different specific designs or variants of the designs, okay? So for the quantitative, we have descriptive, correlational, quasi-experimental, and experimental. So normally, we use this in traditional research. For the qualitative research design, we are familiar with the grounded theory, phenomenology, ethnography, narrative historical, and case study. And finally, for the mixed design, we are accustomed to using the triangulation, embedded, explanatory, and the exploratory designs. But when we talk about AR, we take a look at a certain portion of the quantitative design. So when we say quantitative design, this is presented a while ago, it's used to examine relationships between variables. We use numbers and statistics to explain and analyze our findings. So for non-experimental designs, for the quantitative, we have descriptive, correlational, and predictive. But we also have quasi-experimental and experimental designs. If we want to have, to take a look at effect. So yung mga pinapresent niyo last time, nung week 2 ng October, the effect of something like that, that's basically either quasi-experimental or experimental design. But when we talk about AR, it leans more on the qualitative research designs. So for you to be able to determine if the design that you would be using is leaning more on the qualitative design, probably you can make use of this checklist. The first question there is, do you want the study to study about human behavior and behavioral changes? If that's a yes, probably you can check any of the variants of the qualitative designs. Do you want to do exploratory study? Do you want to develop an initial understanding of an issue or a problem? Do you intend to look at or to look for a range of ideas and feelings about something? Do you want to gain understanding of the different perspectives between groups and categories of people, probably ethnicity, etc.? Do you want to uncover underlying motivations and factors that influence decision making and opinions? Do you intend to provide information needed to design a qualitative design? Or do you want to develop a theory or a model? Then we make use of AR variants. I mean qualitative research variants. Do you want to explain findings from a quantitative study? Then we make use of qualitative designs, specifically the explanatory design. Okay, so to take a look at this, if these are the checklist or this is our checklist, if let's say what you intend to do falls on more on any of these checklists, then you might probably make use of any variants of the qualitative research. So ito po yung iba-ibang klase, no? You would notice action research is one among them. It's the study used to check if an action is effective, one that consists of repeated going through, planning, action, reflection. Okay, we have discussed the different descriptions of AR last meeting. For the data collection tools, maybe you can use in-depth interviews, focus group discussions, participant observations, we have photo voice, we have descriptive survey, document analysis, projective techniques, or narrative inquiry. So these are the different data collection tools when you deal with qualitative research designs. For developmental research, you would notice if we go back, developmental research falls on, saan siya ayun, under ng action research, ano, meron kang design-based research. So, qualitative design din po, usually ang category ng developmental research. The developmental research may be taken as an action research if it is an action intended to improve something. So, pwede nating i-embed sa loob ng action research approach ang developmental design. So, we have the following. We have two types. More often than not, we deal with product design. Diba? Yung mga worksheets, modules, toolkits, yung mga dinidesign natin ngayon, they belong to type 1. But if you wanted to have a model of how to develop modules, so gagawa kayo ng framework on developing a module, then you might use type 2. Okay? So for type 1, we have basically 3 phases. You have product design and development. So you need the instructional design, then you develop, then you evaluate the product, and then you have validation, okay, validation techniques. Okay, these are the corresponding participants that you would involve per phase. Okay, and the data collection that you may employ. You have case study, in-depth interview, field observation, document analysis. On the other phases, you would probably need survey, okay, aside from the mentioned data collection methods. And the third phase, you need evaluation and experimental processes. Okay. So basically, it's almost the same as the model development, only that we have different ways of gathering data. For example, for model development, you make use of literature review, case study, survey, Delphi technique, and think aloud protocols. For the rest of the phases, we almost have the same data collection processes. So we have survey, in-depth interview, case study, field observation, document analysis. So for the validation, you make use of, probably you will make use of experimental designs, interview, replication, and expert review. So that's all about developmental research. Okay? And the final design is known as the combination of qualitative and quantitative research designs. Okay, some authors would qualify action research as a mixed method design. Okay. if we are talking about action research as a method, so kapag tinitignan natin yung action research as a way of doing things, then usually naka-classify natin siya as qualitative and quantitative or mixed. Pero ang focus natin dito ay papaano kayo mag-gather ng data. Pero kapag tinignan natin ang action research approach, it's basically more of the qualitative action design. Kasi ang tinitignan natin, improvements, so kailangan nakikita natin first stage, kung ano nangyayari kay student, etc. So more on the qualitative aspect. Never on the quantitative alone. Hindi natin gusto yung initial and final lang lagi. Okay? So nandun tayo sa in-between. Gusto natin makita yung progression, gano'n. Development, ganyan. Okay? So that's all about the designs. So these are the different variants of mixed design. You may use triangulation. Maraming variants yung triangulation. But more often than not, what we do is the convergence. So anong ginagawa natin dito? Convergence concurrent. So ang ibig sabihin na to, you get to have several sources of data. And then you make use of them to analyze a specific thing. Okay? And then we have the embedded, explanatory, and exploratory. So those are the mixed designs. Again, as I've mentioned, we only take a look at them in terms of methodology. Paggamit ng quantitative plus the malaking qualitative. So more often than not, nandun tayo sa exploratory. Malaking quali kumpara mo sa quanti. Ganun yung essence supposedly ng data collection kapag action research. Meron tayong mga quantitative. Like for example, pwede tayong kumuha ng pre-test and post-test. Okay? Pero yung explanation noon, yung essence nung effectiveness ng action na ginawa mo ay wala doon sa initial and final. Dan doon sa kung papaano o anong nangyari in between. Okay? So, again, mixed design is only attributed to action research due to data collection processes. Now, how do we go about sampling? So dito, ang titignan natin ay yung general case sampling, ano? Pero paano ito kapag action research ang ginagawa natin? So meron tayong dalawang klase. We have probability and non-probability sampling. When you say probability, any method of sampling that uses some form of random selection. It set up some procedures that assures that different units and of the population have equal probabilities of being included. So that's basically contrasting the non-probability sampling. It does not involve random sampling. Probabilities of selection are not specified for the individuals in the population. So here are some of the variants of the two kinds or types of sampling methods. So for non-probability sampling, we go for quota sampling, we have snowball sampling, theoretical sampling, and the most popular. Okay. Ito yung pinaka-popular sa lahat. For the other side, you have the simple random, the cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and the stratified random sampling. Okay. So how are they different from one another? So simple random is that you choose any, no? Basta lahat sila may equal chances. Pwedeng draw lots. Yan. Systematic, you call the student nth student. So ibig sabihin yung pang-lima lagi. O yun. Stratified naman, if you have, let's say, groups, 6 na groups, and then you do simple random within the group, that's stratified. Okay, for this one, a cluster sample is obtained by selecting clusters from the population on the basis of simple random. So, kunwari, buong population ng school nyo, no? Tapos ang kukunin yung clusters ay grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, and then you do sampling there, cluster sampling. So that's for the probability sampling. For non-probability, or this one, we are very, very familiar with this convenience sampling. Convenience sampling is also known as the purposive sampling. Diba? Okay. So, kayo yung pipili due to reasons that, let's say, for example, since it's an action research, I want my students as my participants. Convenience sampling. And usually, that's the one used for action research. Okay. Sometimes we also make use of quota sampling, but we have to ensure equal representation of subjects in each layer or stratified sample groups. Ito, familiar din siguro kayo, no? Snowball sampling. Kunwari, parental involvement. So, meron kayong napili isang parent, in-interview niyo si parent, tapos sabihin niyo kay parent, magsabi ka naman, ma'am, kung sino pa yung pwede kong ma-interview na katulad mo. O, di magre-recommend ngayon si madam, di ba? O, di siya yung susunod mong sample. Yan. So, snowball sampling. Theoretical sampling is all about not choosing the participants. Kunwari, meron ka ng 5 key informants or mga estudyante. Tapos, kuha ka ng data, di ba? Ngayon, kapag kulang pa yung data, parang hindi pa saturated, you have to go back to them and do another round of data collection. So, no additional persons involved. Only that you need additional data so that data is saturated. So that's theoretical sampling. Okay. So again, we usually use all of this in action research. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, if we look at action research as an approach, then it's more of the qualitative approach or the qualitative design. Okay. Now, how do we call our selected samples? Diba? Anong tawag natin? Participant ba? Respondent ba? O subject ba? Diba? Usually, if we are dealing with people and they give you more than mere responses to survey questions, you call them participants. Pero kung nagpa-survey ka lang, wala kang interview, wala nang iba, wala kang kinuhang iba sa kanila other than their answers from the Google form, then you call them respondents. Okay? You call them subjects if they are more often than not non-living. So yung mga tree bark, leaves, mga ganun. Plants, machines, ayan, subjects ang tawag natin. So participants, respondents, and subjects. Since we will be dealing with our students, then we will be calling them participants. Okay. Why? Because of the fact that we will not be limited to giving them survey forms. Kailangan natin reflections nila, narratives, kailangan natin ng mga sagot nila, etc. Marami tayong kailangan sa kanila. Kaya ang tawag natin sa kanila, participants. Okay? Yan. So, ano ngayon ang gagamitin nating instruments kapag tayo ay magkakandak na ng action research, diba? Itong pinakamahirap na i-establish muna, kailangan meron na kayong instrument. So, paano ang gagawin natin? Will you be adopting, adapting, or developing? Anong kaibahan ng tatlo? Sige nga, pakilagay sa chat box kung ano yung differences ng tatlo. Yes, I'll be sending Sir Ian the copy of the presentation. I sent him the day 1 already. Yes. Sige nga, palagay sa chat box anong kaibahan ng tatlo. Ma'am po ba ito? Ma'am Vargas? Okay, adopt, make use of an existing instrument. Okay. 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 Make new one. Adopt, revise. Adopt, okay. Ayan, ang daming sagot. Thank you very much. Okay, maraming salamat po. So let's see, when you say adopt, you use it as is, correct? Okay. So verbatimly, we use the entire instrument. On our reports, we have to mention who developed the instrument and when, who validated the instrument, and please place the validity index. Okay? Other studies that have used the instrument may be our source of the reliability index. Yung reliability index po, yung tinatawag nga natin kadalasang Cronbach alpha, di ba? So, kailangan nating mai-report iyon. Kaya lang, kapag nag-report po tayo noon, kailangan yung kinuhanan na participants kung saan pinilot ito ay dapat halos kapareho ng characteristics nung mga intended nating participants. So, kung Filipino, natin siya, sa mga Filipino learners natin siya ikakandak, kailangan yung reliability index na source din po sa mga Filipino learners. So, paano yon? Kailangan ko pa bang i-try out? Hindi naman po. Kailangan lang maghanap tayo ng literature na nakandak na yan dito, nagamit na, at hiramin na lang natin yung reliability index. So, that is for the adopt. But for the adapt, tama kayo, no? You make changes and you suit the changes to the conditions that you have. So, pwede ba itong instrument 1, 2, 3, standard instruments, kukuha ako ng part 1 kay instrument 1, part 2 kay instrument 2, part 3 kay instrument 3, and then I have a new instrument. Yes, pwede. And you call that adapt. However, you have to establish its validity and reliability. Okay? So, hindi pwedeng pagsamasamahin lang and then administer. No, you have to have a validation procedure katulad ng kung paano tayo magpa-validate kapag nagde-develop tayo ng instrument. Okay? So, pa-validate tayo sa expert, phase and content, and then we try it out, pilot, okay, and check the reliability index of the instrument. New instrument. Kasi parang new na siya, no? So, that's adapt. Okay? Now, if you have a lot of time, then you can develop. Yan. So, pag nag-develop naman tayo, medyo mahaba-habang proseso nga lang. Kasi ito palang research na, di ba? Traditional research nga lang. It will fall under developmental research. So, we have designed the structure, develop the items, subject the items to validation, have pilot test or have it pilot tested, establish reliability, and conduct factor analysis. Okay? So kapag nagawa natin lahat yon and all our results fall within the standard, then we have a standard instrument. It's ready to use. Pwedeng-pwede nang gamitin. Yeah? Okay. Kaya lang medyo matagal-tagal ang lalakbayin kapag gano'n. Okay? Yeah. So these are the different validity measures that you can use. For theoretical constructs, usually kapag nag-develop tayo ng instrument, ang ginagamit nating constructs ay theoretical construct. We subject it to phase and content validity. So what it measures, ayan po, whether the test covers a representative sample of the domain measured, how is it accomplished, and then the methods. So pwede natin gawing yung phase, descriptive lang. Bibigay natin yung instrument kay expert, si expert babasahin niya, dun siya magko-comment. We call that descriptive validation. Is it acceptable? Yes, it's acceptable. Okay? So, paano ko nire-report ang result kapag phase validation? We only have a table and we note all the comments of the reviewers or the experts. So, kung meron kayong tatlong experts, expert 1, 2, 3, tapos yung mga items sa gilid, and all their comments. So, that's descriptive validation. But for content validation, you may make use of a checklist or a rating scale. And then from the rating scale, you can get average congruence percentage. That's method 1, which is being promoted by Popham from the time he constructed the method, so 1978. Meron din tayong content validity index or CVI kung tawagin natin. Okay? That's by Martuza in 1977. So ito yung mga constructs niya. 5 or fewer experts almost agree. ICVI must be 1.0. Yun yung range or yun yung value na pwede nating masabing standard yung instrument in terms of content validity. 6 or more experts ang ICVI should be not less than 0.78. For method 3, meron tayong ginagamit na ICANS Content Validity Index naman. Kung medyo hirap tayo maghanap ng mga experts, itong pinakamaganda, yung method 3. Kasi 2 experts lang ang kailangan mo. Okay, you can compute the content validity index. Ano po ang formula? Available po meron sa internet. Okay, so we can just check, just encode ICANN's content validity index, and it gives you the formula. Okay, other constructs, you have the empirical constructs. So you have criterion that includes the predictive and concurrent, and the constructs. Construct validity. Ayan. Okay, so under construct validity, dyan makikita po yung factor analysis. This is very important when you are trying to establish a standard instrument. So, kailangan po yung factor analysis. Okay? Okay po? Ayan. So, punta naman tayo sa data collection. Meron na tayong instrument. Di mag-collect na tayo ng data. No? So, paano ba mag-collect ng data? Okay, meron tayong tinatawag na primary sources, meron din po tayong tinatawag na secondary sources. So for secondary sources, these are the documents. These are very important right now kasi marami tayong makukuha na data sa mga ito ngayon kumpara sa mga primary sources dahil mahirap pong kumuha ng data na yung pandemic. Okay, so medyo pasiglahin natin yung secondary sources. Yeah. So under documents, you can probably make use of government publications, literature or earlier research, census, and personal records. Just make sure that you follow data privacy. Okay. Then for the primary sources, we have three major sources. We have observations, interviews, and questionnaires. So for questionnaires, ayun, hindi pwede yung mailed, ibabalik din sa inyo, mailed, or pwede namang online, di ba? O Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, etc. For interview, it could be structured and unstructured. Noon yun, ano? Pero ngayon, meron ng, before the structured and unstructured, dapat alam muna natin, online ba ito na interview o face-to-face? Depending on where we are. Kapag nandito tayo sa Manila, Quezon City, I don't think interview will be allowed on a face-to-face basis. Pero kung GCQ naman tayo, I think allowed, ano? Sa isang room, dalawa lang kayo. Yan. Pwede naman. Kaya lang kung estudyante, medyo mahirap kasi hindi sila pwedeng pumasok, di ba? So, more often than not, we will be dealing with online interviews. The same with online observation. Yan. So, as I mentioned last time, you could be a non-participant. So, ang gagawin natin, si mother or si father or si sino man ang kasama sa bahay ni student, ang participant. With the participant. Participant observer ang tawag natin. Kayo, as teacher, kasi wala kayo doon sa tabi ni student, pwede tayong non-participant observer. Okay? There. So, these are the different collection techniques, the 3 E's that we refer to. Experiencing, so that's by observation, inquiring, or by asking and examining by using records, which is actually presented a while ago. Okay, so ano yung mga records? Journals, documents, maps, audio and videotapes, artifacts, and field notes. O, dito naman sa inquiring, informal interview, structured interview, questionnaires, attitudinal scales, standardized tests. Yan. Kaya lang, we're in the new normal. So, more often than not, we will be using the Q1 or the quadrant 1. Quadrant, anong tawag? Okay. We'll be using online surveys. We'll be using online interviews. We'll be using online testing. And we'll be using online experiment. Okay? Yan. So, medyo mahirap yung mga Q2, Q3. Yung Q4, pwede siguro. Kaya lang, depende nga, again, depende kung nasaan tayong lugar. Okay? So, kung kunwari, hindi talaga maiwasan, kailangan yung ma-meet si student, siguro through the communities. Diba? Yun ang pwede natin gawin. Field survey or field interview. Okay? So, what are the comparisons of an online and an offline data collection? In terms of length of response, kapag testing, medyo incomplete kapag online. Pag survey, ganun din. Kasi hindi mo mapipilit tapusin ni student yan. Diba? Unless natakot sa inyo yung mga estudyante. Natapusin talaga nila yan. Okay? Interviews are shorter. It's because kapag sabi ni student, ayokong mag-camera on, wala tayong magagawa, di ba? Yan. So speed, testing would be faster if it's online. Experiments will be faster. Lalo na ang survey, mabilis, di ba? Click-click lang pagdating ng submit. Pati result nasa atin na, di ba? And interviews are shorter. Return rate, syempre, mas mabilis kasi nga online lahat, di ba? So lahat yan, mabilis. Accuracy, testing, walang pagkakaiba. Experiment, walang pagkakaiba. Less accurate, tama yon kapag online. Lalo na kung hindi tayo sure kung si student talaga yung sumagot. Okay? May mga occasions na hindi siya yung sumasagot. So yun ang kailangan nating maiwasan. Ayan. And then less accurate din kapag interview, lalo na kung camera off. Okay? So disclosure, more disclosure online for experiment, survey, and interview. Kailangan very concrete ang ating ethics, revised ethics sa ngayon, lalo na sa panahon ngayon, na hindi pwede ang mga face-to-face interviews, surveys, at saka experiment. For setting of control, we have very low control on testing, survey, and interview. Okay, so yun po ang kaibahan ng online sa offline. Pero ano ang mga advantages at disadvantages? Ang advantage, isa dito ay wala kang direct contact sa respondents and participants. Meaning, walang contamination, kumbaga, di ba? So we ensure complete anonymity, okay? Participants are not pressured to stay during interview, and for surveys, more widely advertised and disseminated. Pag binigay mo ito sa isa, makakarating hanggang sa dulo ng class list mo agad. Mabilis, di ba? PM lang yan sila. Okay? Efficient record keeping and consolidating of data. Bakit? Kasi nga automated lahat. Kapag Google Form ang ginamit, naka-graph na agad nga yan, di ba? Data is not easily lost online. So, hindi pwedeng, nawala ko yung survey form. Hindi pwede. Nandyan lang yan sa cloud. Okay. But the disadvantage is, let's say, for example, you are doing the interview, you are blind with the visual cues, diba? Parang ayaw pala na ni student yung tinatanong mo, hindi mo makita kasi camera off sa'yo, diba? O kaya tuwang-tuwa na pala siya, hindi mo makita kasi nga camera off. Difficulty in age verification. So, hindi mo nga alam kung siya talaga yung sumasagot ng online survey, ng mga interviews, etc. Okay? Immediate clarifications may not be readily provided by researcher. Difficulty in obtaining signatures. Ito ang pinakamahirap. Siyempre, lahat ng tao hesitant mag-submit ng e-signature, diba? So, paano ito in terms of ethical consideration? Paano natin makakonsider na informed consent or signed informed consent, yung informed consent, kapag ayaw ni parent ng e-signature. Okay? So, pwede tayong makiusap sa Ethics Review Board. So, mali-discuss natin yan later. Okay? Technical difficulties and illiteracies of some participants. And syempre, threats to confidentiality. Okay. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages. So some suggestions, the school or your division probably need to establish ethical guidelines, new ethical guidelines on online data gathering. So very important po ito. Okay. Research funding can incorporate applications to conduct experiments and online testing. Faster and high-capacity hardware probably in your schools. Okay, you can set up later research laboratories, pero medyo futuristic masyado pa ito, ano? So siguro ang pinaka-importante muna ay yung establishment of ethical guidelines on online data gathering. Para at least lahat tayo safe in terms of how we do data collection. Okay, this is an example of an action research publication, and this is the method section. So you can see the method section would usually comprise of the design, okay? So makikita nyo dyan, single case design ang ginamit ni researchers, diba? Data sources, sabi niya, several instruments. So ano yung instruments na yon? Ito yung table 1. Okay. And then, they made use of first person. We followed. So, okay lang yon kasi nga action research yung ginagawa natin. It's more of the qualitative design. So, ang ginamit dito ay, okay, plan, act, and reflect. So, plan, ito yung preliminary stage, and then the intervention is the act. And then the post-intervention is partly the reflect. The other part of the reflect may be found on the conclusion and the implication section. Okay? So, ganito po, papaano i-present ang method section ng isang report or action research report or publication. So, meron po ba tayong katanungan bago tayo mag-proceed? Any questions po? May tanong po ba tayo? Sharon?
Yes. Okay. With this, for the question and answer, or para po sa may mga tanong, tawagin ko po ang aking kasamang moderator, si Sir Arlon Caris. Okay, ma'am. So, proceed po tayo. Wala po silang mga tanong.
Wala silang tanong.
Po sila talaga mabuti, ma'am, sa inyo.
Sige, tuloy na natin.
Okay.
Ayan. Baka gustong-gusto na ninyong mag-workshop. So, we take a look at ethics in educational research. So, siguro dito baka marami kayong tanong, ano? When we talk about ethics, it's all about creating mutually respectful relationships with your participants or the research population. So, pag sinabing research population, researcher, and the participants as well. At saka kung sino pa ang involved doon sa particular research, admin, etc. Okay? Subjects are pleased to participate. Hindi yung ayaw nilang mag-participate. Ibig sabihin, kapag ayaw, huwag na natin pilitin kasi hindi nila gusto eh. Di medyo baka ma-compromise naman ang ating mga, anong tawag nito? Ang ating mga subjects na iba or participants na iba. Okay? We have community regards the conclusions as constructive. Yeah. So when we deal with ethics in research, more often than not, we take a look at the data gathering process. Dapat may voluntary participation on the part of the participants. There has to be an informed consent, but again, we have to consult with your ethics board on the different changes in terms of data gathering on online systems or online data gathering system. Okay? There has to be no harm in both or to both the participants and the researcher. Okay? You have to follow the PAC or the privacy, anonymity, and confidentiality. So for professionalism purposes, ethics in research also tries to reach out to honest reporting, credits, and plagiarism. Okay, so yun yung kabuuan ng ethics in research. Now, if we take a look at the general principles, it's just like this one. We have basically 4. One is respect for persons. Kaya nga sabi natin, kapag ayaw, we have to respect the decision. Okay? Autonomy, self-determination, has to be meaningfully informed. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan i-explain maigi kung ano yung intentions natin sa action research sa mga participants. Kung sila ay minor, kailangan po sa mga magulang natin i-explain ang ating mga objectives. Okay? So, ang voluntary consent, kapag minor, 2. Isang galing dun sa bata at isang galing sa magulang. Beneficence. It has to have benefits to both you as a researcher and the participants. Pero lalo na yung participants at saka society or community. Okay? Justice. Persons bearing burden of research should receive appropriate benefits. Okay? So, kunwari, bakit mo kailangang interview si parent? Kasi nga gusto kong malaman gaano kataas ang participation ni parents sa pag-aaral ngayon ni student. So, kung may malaking benefit naman sa kanila, then that's justice. Okay? They should not be placed under risk. Yan. So dapat maliwanag po sa atin yun. Okay? Minimize harm. So non-maleficence. So the general issues around ethics and educational research, it's just about protecting the participants and honesty and reporting. Yan. So some of our considerations, potential physical or psychological harm. Ang tanong natin dapat, is there any part in the procedure that may pose harm to participants? Pag ba kinausap mo yung estudyante, interview, ay meron ng connotation na, alam niyo yung usual na pakiramdam ng estudyante kapag pinapaiwan sa class, nung face-to-face pa, di ba? Tapos, aalis na lahat ng bata, ay, maiwan ka ganito, kakausapin kita, di ba medyo negative agad yon? O kapag ka ganon, it may pose harm after, then you have to have debriefing. Okay? So, briefing, orientation, and then debriefing. Issues of confidentiality, deception, and coercion. Okay? Again, for minors, you have to have 2 consent from parents. That's a requirement. And we also have or need consent from the child. So either verbal or kung kaya niya nang magsulat, yeah, that would be probably better. Okay? So some other issues, plagiarism is one. Misuse of privileged information, like for example, nalaman mo na ganito yung background ng family, etc. And you made use of it na walang consent sa kanila, hindi pwede. Ha? Data manipulation, ang gusto mo kasi positive ang effect nung ginagawa mong intervention, so you manipulate the data, that's not good. Okay? Authorship and other publication issues, research with human and animal subjects. So honesty, data should always be presented as honesty as possible. Again, do not delete data that does not support your claim. Nandiyan lang yan, unless na void ang data. Okay? I mean, void ang instrument, void ang survey form, ayun, tsaka tayo pwedeng magtanggal. Kunwari, yung isang form, walang sagot ni isa. Kailangan ko bang isama yun, ma'am? Hindi siya kailangan isama. Okay? But do not alter the data which are there. And do not plagiarize. Now, I placed here, for the publication ethics, I placed here authors 7 scenes. So later on, after you are done with your action research, you are intending authors, diba? Magiging authors na kayo. So ano-ano ang dapat iwasan? One is carelessness. You have to have good citations. Ang citation, kung ano yung sinabi talaga ni research, yun dapat ang sabihin natin doon sa article natin or sa ating report. For example, you mentioned social constructivism as mentioned by Morales 2020. Hindi yun ang aking research. Ang aking research ay constructivism. Yun lang. Hindi ko sinabing social constructivism. That's a citation bias, specifically understatement. Diba? So, ibig sabihin, merong medyo mali doon sa pagkakasite. Okay? So, anong gagawin doon? Kailangan lang nating baguhin. Yan. So, isasama natin or tatanggalin natin si social. Kasi constructivism lang yung aking area na sinulat. Now, if you want to submit to journals, it would be better, syempre, di ba? Kasi matutuwa ang inyong SDO. Okay. But you have to refrain from redundant publication. So, when we say redundant publication, what we mean is we try to take a look at one journal at a time. Okay? So, pag sinabing one journal at a time, kapag ito yung aking sinabmitan na journal, dapat antayin ko kung ano yung response yung journal. Pag walang response sa journal, pwede akong sumulat kay editor at sabihin, I would like to retract my article. I wish to submit it to other journals. So, pwedeng ganon, no? Pero hindi pwedeng sabay. Submit ko kay Journal A, submit ko kay Journal B. Kung sinong mauna sa kanilang sumagot, doon ako. Hindi ko pwede yon. So, isa yun sa tinatawag nilang, yun ang tinatawag nilang, nasa na yung PowerPoint ko? Ayan. Redundant publication. Unfair authorship. Okay, sino lang ba talaga ang nagsulat ng papel at gumawa ng research? Edi yun lang dapat ang mga authors. Okay? Ma'am, pag nag-edit ba ng todo-todo, English, kasama siya? Okay lang naman, lalo na kung English naman yung subject or topic ninyo. Walang problema. Nagkakaroon lang talaga ng problema kapag, at tinatanong iyon ng editor, kapag kasama sa listahan ng authors ay, kunwari, math teacher. Tapos English. So, paano nagsulat si English at nag-research? Hindi siya appropriate. Ganon. So, mangyayari, si friend ninyo na editor, i-acknowledge nyo lang, hindi siya pwedeng maging author. Ayun. So, unfair authorship ang tawag natin, no? Undeclared conflict of interest. Okay, so failure to cite funding source kung merong nagpondo ng inyong action research. Kunwari, pinondohan ng DepEd, tas hindi nyo pinasalamatan dun sa acknowledgement yung agency, ang tawag natin doon ay conflict of interest. Okay? Or pag walang approval ng review board or ethics committee ang inyong research bago kayo sumalang. Yan. So, isa yan sa mga samples, no? Under conflict of interest at saka human and animal subject violations. But usually they are done or they are supposedly your focus during the time that you're conducting the research. Okay? Not during the time that you are writing the research. Okay? The last one is, the second to the last one is plagiarism. So that's reproducing others' works or ideas without as one's own. So kapag po meron kayong kukuning specific items sa isang research, you have to follow certain ways of how to cite, properly cite. Okay. And finally, other fraud. Yun nga po, falsification of data, fabrication of data, misappropriation of others' ideas, plans given in confidence. So those are the different authors' sins when we talk about publication. So again, in ethics and educational research, we have what we call the institutional review board. So I hope that your SDO has this as a particular section in their office. Ano? Kailangan meron silang committee for this so that risk will be minimized. Risk will be reasonable in relation to benefits from the research. They will be overseeing equitable selection. Sila rin po ang nagkakapag-identify ng protection ng mga vulnerable individuals. Sila ang nagre-review talaga ng inyong mga research. Okay? Tinitignan dyan nila kung may informed consent ba, yung nandoon din ba sa informed consent, yung right to withdraw, papaano ang monitoring ng data para maprotektahan ang mga participants, at papaano ang privacy at confidentiality. Okay? Are there any questions? Parang may tanong po yata kanina. Tama po ba?
Yes, ma'am, from Sir Ramel Aquino. So, request po ni Sir Ramel Aquino, discuss a little about the Think Aloud protocols in Delphi.
Think Aloud protocols po, ginagamit din ito as teaching technique. Parang you ask your student to tell you what they think. So, kunwari po, it's basically almost the same as a projective technique. Ang difference lang po, sa projective technique, nagpo-present ka ng picture. So from the picture, you ask your students to interpret the picture. And then from the interpretation, ayun, makakakuha po kayo ng mga details ng kanilang reflection, details ng kung paano sila mag-isip, etc. Pag naman think aloud, kadalasan, nagpo-post lang po tayo ng question or isang statement, and then you ask them to, what do you think? Parang ganun po. You only wanted them to think aloud. Ibig sabihin, kung ano yung iniisip nila, sasabihin po nila sa inyo. So that's think aloud. Kapag po naman, Delphi technique, normally, ito po ay method okay, in which you wanted to have a group opinion or decision by surveying a panel of experts. So usually po ay parang pwede siyang roundtable discussion, kaya lang ang kasama lahat dito ay experts. So Delphi technique ang tawag po natin, or Delphi method. Ayun. Nasagot ko po ba ang tanong, Sir Ramel? Ano po ang difference nung PAC? Privacy, anonymity, and confidentiality. Okay. Privacy po ay specified po yan kung ano lang ang pwede based on Data Privacy Act. So that's for privacy. Anonymity po is ikaw na researcher ay hindi mo talaga or parang very, very far away ka talaga kay participant. Okay? So parang anonymous siya sa iyo para wala kang initial basis or subjective feelings and whatever bago ka kumuha ng iba-ibang data galing sa kanya. Para at least hindi ka magkaroon ng priori concepts tungkol sa kanya. So kung kunwari, meron kang ini-establish na model, etc., maganda kung hindi mo alam kung sino sila. Wala kang idea kung sino sila. Okay? And then you source all the constructs from what they are telling you. Confidentiality po, ito ay, what do you call this one? A relationship with the participant in which si participant kilala mo, so anonymity nawawala na po doon, di ba? Kasi kilala mo si participant. Only that, you have to make sure that all things na ayaw ni participant na malaman ng iba ay hindi malalaman ng iba. So that's confidentiality. Kunwari po, nag-conduct ka ng study, hindi po ito action research. Kunwari, traditional research. Gusto mong malaman kung sino-sino sa mga teachers sa isang school ang gumawa o nakasuhan ng sexual harassment, di ba? Isa sa mga confidentiality na pwede nating ma-adapt ay hindi mo sasabihin yung pangalan, lalo na ng school, di ba? Confidentiality. Yan po. Okay? Pero hindi siya anonymity kasi nga po, kilala mo sila, in-interview mo sila, etc. Okay? Okay po ba, Sir John Eric? Ayan, hindi ko na po binigay sa moderator. Binasa ko na po. Ma'am Sharon.
Yes, for more
Yes.
questions, ma'am. Diyan po si Sir.
Ayan, ma'am. Yung another
Yes,
question,
Sir
ma'am.
Arlon.
Ma'am Paz, another
Yes
question
po.
from Ma'am Ruji May Vargas. Sa pag-ask po ng consent sa mga parents and students, paano po ma-ensure na hindi maapektuhan or magiging bias ang results ng research since malalaman po ng mga participants na nagkakanda ka po ng research?
Oh, yun nga po, no? So, isa doon, kailangan, kunwari po, ang intention mo lang naman ay kuha ka ng data for one period, I mean, one quarter. Ano po? Anong quarter na po ba tayo? Di ba first quarter tayo ngayon? Tama, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, kung ang intention mo, isang quarter ka lang naman kukuha ng data, ang gawin natin, para hindi masyadong affected yung research mo dun sa idea na, ay, nagre-research kami, ginagawa kaming research, etc. Ang pwede natin gawin ay quarter 1 pa lang, gawin mo na yung intervention. Okay? So, since ginagawa mo na yung intervention, sanay na sila. Kausapin mo man sila, ay, may research. Sanay na po sila eh. So, yung second quarter na kukuha ka ng data, hindi na masyadong affected ang iyong results. So, isa yun sa mga pwedeng gawin para ma-minimize natin yung effect nung pagkakaalam nila na sila ay nire-research.
So meaning, Ma'am Paz, yung prior informed consent po ba natin ay ibibigay lang natin dun sa data gathering na? Or prior
Yes
to the data gathering na po?
O kasi, kunwari ngayon po ay proposal pa lang naman kayo, di ba? Kapag na-approve ito, ay tsaka kayo mag-start ng mag-gather ng data. Kaya lang i-identify nyo, let's say for example, second grading nyo siya gagawin. So ngayon pa lang, try nyo nang mag-provide ng intervention para hindi masyadong kita yung effect. Nung kapag pagdating ng second quarter, doon nyo kasi ibibigay yung informed consent, di ba? Tama po yun. Pagka mag-data gather, tsaka pa lang po magbibigay ng informed consent.
Ayun, ayun. Magandang sagot, ma'am. At marami
Okay.
po tayong natutunan. Another question, ma'am, dito po yung kay kay Ma'am Virginia. Kasi ito po yung, kumbaga, another style po ng sa action research, yung appreciative inquiry.
Mhm.
Can we use appreciative inquiry, ma'am, in our action research? Since parang
Pwede naman
narinig.
po.
And paano daw po ito, ma'am? Yung sa appreciative inquiry.
Kapag po kasi appreciative inquiry, ang tina-target niyo po ay ah, hindi niyo tinitignan ang nuances ng kung anong meron kayo dyan. Kunwari, school yan, conflicts. Hindi tinitignan yung mga conflicts. Hindi niyo siya ina-actionan. Ang ginagawa ninyo, gumagawa kayo ng ibang paraan para magkaroon ng ibang output. Kunwari, itong nangyayari sa atin ngayon. Ang major issue ay yung COVID-19 na virus, di po ba? Kaso, kapag gagamit tayo ng action research, dapat gagamit tayo ng vaccine para ma-cure ito. Parang ganon, ano? Hindi natin yun kaya. So, ang pwede natin gawin ay gumawa ng ibang design outside of targeting the major problem. The major problem is having the pandemic or having the COVID-19. Hindi natin yun ma-target. So, ang gagawin natin, gawa tayo ng ibang program. Ang tawag natin doon ay positive approach to leadership program or development. So, normally, nagagamit ito ng mga principals, department heads, ganyan. Appreciative inquiry. Anong programa ang gagawin ko para ma-strengthen ko ang learning continuity sa aking eskwelahan? Yun po, kung paano natin pwedeng gamitin ang appreciative inquiry. More of leadership, management. Ayun po. Nasagot ko po ba, Sir Arlon? Ay, sino po ba nagtanong? Ma'am Virginia pala.
Apo. Thank you, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, yung appreciative inquiry po ay nasisimulan din po namin gawin doon sa aming mga schools. Ma'am, meron pa po dito, yung related po ito sa, I think sa plagiarism po ito. Yung tanong po regarding doon sa authenticity, since di ba may mga available po tayong mga authenticity software, gaya ng Turnitin. So, paano
Opo.
ba ma-assure, ma'am, yung originality nung gagawin na research kung in the absence of that software?
Noon, ang ginagawa namin ay kinaka-copy-paste lang talaga namin sa Google. Tapos para makita kung marami ang naha-highlight na kapareho. Pero kung wala kayong software, I think G Suite, may G Suite po ba kayo? G Suite has. So, pwede po nating i-check sa G Suite kung anong particular na software meron. I saw something like that sa G Suite. Kaya lang po kasi hindi namin siya ine-explore dahil nga meron kaming Turnitin. So, ngayon hindi ko siya makita dito sa aking G Suite. Probably okay, from my G Suite, I can see some ang nakikita ko lang po dito ay EasyBib para po ito sa citation. Hypatia is for math. Okay. MyBib is for citation. Ang suggestion ko po, kung ready na yung inyong paper, mag-register muna po kayo doon sa mga 30-day trial. Meron po tayong plug scan, that's one. Medyo mababa lang yung kanyang mga database, pero pwede na po. Okay, so check nyo po yung plug scan. Okay, meron siyang parang 30-day trial. So kung kunwari ready na yung paper ninyo ngayon, register kayo ngayon, tsaka nyo ilagay. Para within the 30-day, magamit nyo siya in a way, kaya ninyong ang tawag nito, mag-generate ng mga similarity indices. At makikita ninyo doon kung ano yung mga na-plagiarize.
Ayun. So napakahalaga po ma'am ng ano po,
Oo,
ng
flag scan
authenticity.
po, no? Okay.
Opo. Ma'am, related lang po dito sa tanong po kanina dun sa appreciative inquiry. So it's more on qualitative design po yung gagamitin.
Yes po, more on qualitative design pa rin. Pero you can use mixed methods if you want some quantities. Kasi syempre kung leadership iyan at saka management, syempre ang mga hinahanap ng mga agencies ay numbers din. So you have to have a good balance of the quantitative and the qualitative aspect.
Opo.
Okay.
Ma'am, meron po ba kayong ma-recommend since kami ay nasa Division of Quezon City regarding po sa similarity index? So may allowed po ba or suggested po kayo na percentage when it comes to similarity index?
Kapag po reports, yung mga mahabaang reports, technical reports, mga ganon, student papers, etc. Ang standard po na international standard is 20%. Okay? So pag pumalo po yung inyong mga papel sa more than that, it would be requiring you, or the systems supposedly will be requiring you to do some revisions on the areas which you have identified, or which the system has identified high similarity to those already published. So ganun po sa international market. Pag po publication yan, article, sa amin sa mga journals po namin, ang sinusunod po namin standard ay yung international standard, which is less than 10%. Yun po ang mga percentages ng similarities.
Ayun, thank you ma'am. Ma'am, another question po, yung regarding po sa plagiarism. So ano po yung sanction na pwedeng kasi depende po ma'am, di ba, sa magiging
Kasi
bigat.
ang plagiarism, kung publication ito, ang ginagawa lang namin, ang principle kasi namin sa Philippine Normal University, particularly the publication office which I run, the principle that we are adopting is formative development of researchers or authors, which means that if we lodge their applications or manuscripts to turn it in, and we found a very high similarity index, we inform them of the parts where they can revise until such time that they are able to have the standard. So, ibig sabihin po ito ay formative assessment ang gamit po ng plagiarism sa amin. Hindi po ito punitive. So, hindi po nagpa-punish. Ano lang, dear author, please revise. Here are the different parts where you can improve your statements. Ganun po. Kung 10 beses siya na mataas po sa 10%, 10 beses po namin isusoli sa kanya. Ganun po. Not punitive. It has to be formative. Because we are trying to help all other researchers and authors. So, ganun po yung aming sistema.
Yan. Ma'am, regarding din po dito sa, di ba minsan po, yung lalabas po sa similarity index na minsan po, di ba, parang meron siyang pinanggalingan, pero hindi mo naman talaga nabasa yung article na yun. Pero yung pinaka-thought or verbatim nung statement, nakita dun sa study mo. So, kailangan pa po bang i-cite yung source?
Yes, you have to cite the source.
The statement?
Oo, you have to cite the source or you have to rephrase. Oo.
Ayun. So, kailangan i-rephrase. Ma'am, meron din po yung sa kay Sir Saku Lim, not, ano pa ba to? Punitive, but grounds for revision. Ayun.
Opo.
Formative, not punitive.
Dapat. Yes po. Kahit po sa mga students. Yung aking mga estudyante po sa PhD, usually ganun po ang aking ginagawa. I-enroll ko sila as my student under Turnitin team. Sila po ang nagra-run ng kanilang mga papers. At ang aim po doon ay bibigyan ko sila ng time, let's say for example 2 weeks, to have less than 20%. So, bahala na sila dyan kung kailan nila gawin, ang revision, kailan nila i-check. Basta pag ni-run nila, less than 10%. Unlimited run po yon sa kanila. Ibig sabihin, sila po mismo nag-undergo ng formative development or formative assessment na yon. So, pagdating sa akin, less than 20% na, Saka po ako magbibigay ng comments on content.
Ayan, katuwa-tuwa. Tuwang-tuwa po yung mga students kapag nakaabot na sila dun sa
Oo, alam mo, ang
required.
sabi nga nila, kapag daw plagiarism ang pinag-uusapan or turn it in, ang gusto nilang ma-achieve 0. Ito daw yung test na ang gusto nilang ma-zero. Ma-zero sila.
Yes,
Ibig
ma'am.
wala silang kinopya. Okay.
Ma'am, another question po related pa rin po sa citation. If the statement of the writer is rephrased, is there a need to cite the source?
Yes,
Kahit
there's a need to
na-rephrase.
cite. Oo. Ang citation yan, kunwari, galing sa akin yon, ang paper ko yung ginamit, ni-rephrase mo, isa-cite mo siya because it's my idea in the first place. I published that idea. Parang ganon. So you have to respect the ideas of the authors or the products or knowledge generated by the author. So ilalagay nyo, kunwari kay Sir Cadiz galing yun, di ba? So Cadiz, 2020 if you are using APA format. Kapag naman directly quoted, you have to place the page where you have read the specific quoted statement or phrase.
Ayan, ang dami natin natutunan kay ma'am kasi tama si ma'am, hindi basta na-rephrase or na-paraphrase, hindi na natin isa-cite. We need to cite the
Yes,
source.
you need to cite.
Ayan. Sa ngayon ma'am, wala na pong mga questions. So,
Ayan, can we still,
ay, may
meron
naabot.
pa, sir.
May humabol ma'am. Yung,
Okay.
May isa na lang, sir.
Okay.
a bit confused lang po. In one of the webinars I have attended, it was mentioned that in conducting an action research, pretest is not necessary na po. Can you give your views on this? Thank you po.
Depende po siguro iyon sa iyong gustong mangyari. Kung gusto mo pa rin tignan kung may improvement sila from the time you started until you ended, you can use. You can use po yon. No? You can. Ibig sabihin, hindi kailangan. So, pwede naman po yung sinabi na post-test design lang po ang gagamitin. Okay lang po yon. Pero nasa sa inyo po yon na researcher kung anong gusto nyo. Kung gusto nyong post-test lang siya, okay lang. Pero kung gusto nyo naman, gusto ko makita kung may improvement ba mula nung una, di gumamit po kayo ng pretest para at least meron kayong gauge sa umpisa. Ayun po.
Ayun. Ay ma'am, ito pa po. Yung related po dun sa exploratory research, allowed din po ba before actual action research?
Yes po. Action research ay usually nagkakaroon na ng ganyan after you have explored actually. So after the exploratory design that you may use, doon po lalabas kasi yung conflict, di ba? At o kaya doon lalabas kung anong klaseng intervention ang kailangan mong gawin. That's the only time that you can make use of the action research itself. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Sir Lon Cadiz. So this time, we will have our workshop na.
Ayan na. Workshop na.
Ito na ang ating task 2. Tama po, ma'am?
Yes, okay. So, can you see my slide? Task 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You can see there are red portions. So, yung mga red portions po dyan, masosource nyo yan doon sa inyong task 1. So, the title of the research is your working title in task 1. The rationale is not included pa, diba? So, kailangan natin itong gawin. Okay. Proponents, syempre kayo yon. So, ang ilalagay nating isa pa, yung objectives or the problems, which will be sourced from your task 1. These are what you call the initial or focus questions. Okay? If you would notice, I only require the themes for literature review. So, ano ba yung themes? For example, ano ba yung... Nandyan ba si Jam? Jam, ano nga ba yung title ng paper mo? PBL, di ba? Tama ba ako?
Wala po si Jam. Nasa
Wala
clean
si Jam.
nagpapacheck.
Okay. Sige. Kahit wala si Jam. Ang title ng tatandaan ko Ang title ng paper niya ay all about problem-based learning approach. So, ang pwede niyang themes ay remote teaching and learning, theme 1. At anong gagamitin niya sa remote teaching and learning? Problem-based approach. Theme 2. Okay, so dun sa theme 1, maglalagay siya ng lahat ng literature tungkol sa remote teaching and learning. So, magkasama na po yon yung local at saka foreign studies. O ganun din po sa PBL. Pero mas maganda kung mas maraming local para at least makikita natin kung ito ba ay masyado nang na-research din dito sa Pilipinas at ano ang kaibahan ng ating gagawin sa ginawa ng iba. Yan. So that's for the literature review. Huwag po kayong mag-alala, theme lang po ang hinihingi natin saan. Okay? Next po, again, pag po theme na hinihingi natin sa literature review, ang dapat nating iniisip ay anong theme ang makakapagbigay ng background kwento sa aking research. Ganun po, ano? Yun ang major question dapat natin. What particular stories, literature are significant to identify the background information for my research. For the time frame, gaano niyo po katagal ito gagawin? 1 quarter from January to March, ganun po ba? So, pakilagay po dun sa time frame. Sino po ang inyong mga target participants? Grade 10, section like this, 30 students, 20 are males, 10 are females, mga ganun po, no? Okay. So, that's for target participants. Ito po ang pinaka-importante. Doon po sa objective 1, na nilagay niyo doon sa first page, pakilagay po anong instrument ang gagamitin nyo para masagot nyo siya. Okay? Anong klaseng data collection ang gagamitin ninyo pag ginamit nyo yung instrument? So for example, ang objective ninyo ay how many parents are delivering tutorial lessons to their class, to their sons and daughters or children. Okay? So questionnaire lang po ito, survey, di ba? Survey questionnaire. So, ang instrument ninyo, questionnaire. Okay. Ang data collection natin, survey. Yan. Ang data analysis natin, abay, nasa sa inyo na po yan. Pwedeng descriptive lang, averages, frequency, etc. O, pangalawa naman po, kung ang susunod naman ay you would want to know how important for the parents are when they are giving tutorials to their children, ang instrument po natin dito siguro, interview, di ba? So, ang interview protocol. Ang data collection method natin, interview. Paano ang data analysis? Eh, dito sa interview, itatranscribe nyo yon, di ba? O pagka-transcribe, pwede nating gawing thematic analysis o kaya coding. Yan. So, yun ang data analysis. Okay po? So, yun po yung plan of action natin. So, simple lang po yung ating task number 2. We have to have a skeleton of how are we going to implement later on our planned action research. May tanong po ba sa ating AR? Ang tanong ay, ilan ang minimum number of related? Okay. Usually po, kapag kinakandak po namin itong ganitong trainings, we normally require about 10 articles per theme. Okay, per theme po yon. Kaya lang hindi po naman agad-agad. Kaya nga po, themes lang ang hinihingi natin ngayon. Okay po? Later, I'll be giving you a different worksheet or a different template for the literature review para po ninyo mailatag na maayos yung inyong literature review. Okay po? Okay. Can you give a sample rationale? Okay. Pangatlo pong part ng ating plan of action, kailangan natin ng Gantt chart. Okay po? So you have to place there all the activities that you have included in the second portion of the plan of action. Kailan nyo pong months ito gagawin. Okay? So we have task 1, 2, 3. Kung tatlo lang po yan. At kung mas marami, pakidagdagan na lang po yung table natin. Yan. Here's a sample po. Kaya lang dito hindi nakalagay yung objective, yung rationale. No? Doon po sa inyo, nakalagay yung rationale. So, tingnan natin kung paano natin siya pwedeng gawan ng rationale. Yan. Ito po ay basic lang. No? Okay. I'll just give you sample po. Wait lang. Okay. Instead of sample, I'll be giving you guide on how to craft your rationale. Ito po actually ang inyong template sa DepEd. So ang ginawa ko dito sa template na sa DepEd na binigay ni Sir Ian, naglagay ako ng additional parts para ma-specify natin yung different portions. So yung mga naka-red, yun po yung mga dinagdag ko. Okay. Hindi ko po na-red yung rationale. Pero yung part na ito, ganito po natin sa pwedeng gawin. Una, anong global trend ba related ang inyong study? So, kunwari, kung PBL ito, edi more on problem-related matters and problem-solving techniques. Okay? Makikita po yan sa 21st century skills. So, global trend po yon, diba? National and local trend related to the study. So kung ganun po, pwede nating gamitin yung national and local trend ay ang gagamitin natin dito ay yung nilagay ninyong research agenda coming from DepEd. Okay po. Yan, kasi national, ano po yun national trend. Finally, you have two others which may be sourced from your task 1. Observations, nandun po yun sa unang row ng task 1. Okay po? And then finally, the major reasons why an action is needed. Ito po galing talaga sa inyo. Bakit nyo kailangang gawan ng paraan ito? Nagawan ng action. Okay po? So, ulitin natin. Global trend muna. So, meron tayong mga 1 to 2 statements on global trend. Pwede naman pong hindi muna statement para doon sa task number 2, you can use bullets. Okay? Bulleted format lang po tayo, pwede na. So, kung PBL po ito, katulad ng project ni Jam, ang pwede natin gawin, yung PBL po, more on developing the problem-solving skill of the student. Real-life problems. So, that is clustered under 21st century skills. Global trend po yon. Ano ngayon ang ginamit ni Jam dun sa research agenda, yun po ang isasama niya dun sa national and local trend. Okay? Yung nilagay niyang observation dun sa task 1, yun po yung susunod. And then, ngayon, parang ang dadagdag natin, bakit kailangan gawan ng action? Okay po ba, ma'am? Ma'am, sino po ba yung nagtanong?
Si Ma'am Clint, ma'am.
Sino po? Opo, may nagtanong kanina.
Apo, ayun.
Opo.
Ma'am, meron pong tanong since sa related literature po tayo. Ito po yung karaniwang tanong din po ng ilan. Yung regarding po sa reliability and validity ng literature when it comes dun sa year.
Okay. Pag po publication matters, kapag gumagawa po tayo ng study, more often than not, we followed rule of thumb is a decade old. So, ibig sabihin, ang mga kailangan ninyong ilagay ay mula 2010 to 2020, kung literature iyan. Pero kung mga theories like PBL, mga theory ni Dewey, etc., hindi po natin, wala tayong yung year range, wala po. So again, decade old po tayo. 2010 to 2020. So kung balak yung gawin yun next year, di 2011 na po tayo mag-start hanggang 2021. Okay po?
Ayun, thank you ma'am. And then, share ko lang din po ma'am yung sa comment minsan ni Sir Ian, pag after po ma-check sa division office, yung mga proposals sa submit, lagi po niyang kasama sa suggestions po yung maglagay ng mga DepEd orders. Yung mga DepEd memorandums
so,
para makuha yung...
Oo, no? Tama po yun.
Ayun. Ma'am, yung tanong po regarding sa exploratory research, yung exploratory research daw po ba ay action research itself? Depende
po kasi sa pagkakastate ng tanong. So, yung title po natin, kailangan po ko pong makita kung ito po ba ay action research na mako-consider. Yun. So, depende po siya. Katulad nung ginawa natin nung first day, hindi tayo nagbabase sa design. Ang binagbabasihan natin lagi ay sa tanong, di po ba? Sa working title. So kung ang tanong ay nangangailangan ng action, then it's an action research. Then from there, tsaka po tayo makakapag-decide anong klaseng design ang pwede nating magamit. It's not the other way around. Now, we have to identify the design and then we can say that this can be used as an action research. Hindi po siya ganon. Okay po.
Ayun. Napaka-clear ma'am ng sagot po ninyo. Pero meron na po siyang follow-up question doon sa results ma'am ng exploratory research. Ay pwede po mag-serve as data for different researches? At kung pwede ma'am, one data ba yun for different studies?
Ano kayang ibig sabihin nun? Can the results of the exploratory research serve as data for
Data.
different research? Yes po, pwede po. From our discussion last time, you can start actually your action research from analysis of data. So kung nagsimula po kayong nag-exploratory research na nung una, you saw something problematic in the data, then what you can do is do an action on that. That's an action research. Pero ang simula ninyo ay yung data na mismo ng exploratory research. Yes po, pwede.
Ayun ma'am. Ma'am, regarding sa timeline, yung common na ginagamit natin yung Gantt chart. So,
Opo.
nagtanong lang po regarding sa Gantt chart po.
Opo. Ano pong tanong?
Yung sa Gantt chart, ma'am.
What is a Gantt chart?
Gantt chart.
Okay, balikan ko po yung Gantt chart. Ito po yung pinakita ko po sa inyo kanina, this one. Ito po ang ating Gantt chart. Yan. So, ilalagay po ninyo sa gilid yung activity. So, kunwari po, development of instrument po kayo. No? Kunwari lang po ito, hindi po ito action research. Traditional research lang. Development of instrument. So, activity 1, design of the instructional or item design. Diba? Number 1 yon. Kaya ko yung gawin in 1 week. So, September, I will just highlight 1/4 of the cell of this one. Ito, 1/4 lang po niyan. Tapos ng number 2, development of the items. So pag nag-develop ako ng items, kailangan ko isang buwan. So mula doon sa design, ang iba-blacken ko naman yung 3/4 ng September at 1/4 ng October. And so on. So that's our Gantt chart po. Okay po ba?
Okay, sir. Okay po, ma'am. So, Sir Ian, meron po ba tayong tanong? Or we will proceed na dito sa ating output. Okay, ma'am. So, ilang minutes po para tayo ay matapos po natin ang task? Ilang minutes po ang bibigay po ninyo?
We have anong oras na? 3:30, no? Then we
Yes.
have finalization of your task 2 in 15 minutes and then probably around 2 or 3 persons can present para po may sample lang tayo ng presentation. Mula doon sa mga comments sa presentation, you can work on the revisions. Okay po ba?
Okay, ma'am. So, para po sa mga ibang may tanong pa po about dun sa SDO, natin, research, i-explain po yan sa atin ni Sir Ian after po ng ating mga output. So, this time po, workout po muna natin yung ating mga output. And then, kung sino po yung meron na po or nakatapos since it was uploaded ahead of this event, so pwede pong mag-chat po sa chat box and present your output. Task 2. So once again po, yung gusto pong mag-present ng kanilang output po, mag-chat lang po kayo sa ating chat box.
Nilagay sa room niya.
Okay. So, meron na po tayong mga volunteered participants. First is from Holy Spirit Elementary School, si Sir Ali Jan. Okay, so while waiting for Sir Ali Jan, next presenter po natin will be...
Isang nag-post noon, nagpapa-thank you sa ano. Bakit nga?
Okay, thank you. So next presenter po natin si Sir Ramel Aquino. Okay, Sir Ali Jan from Holy Spirit Elementary School. Okay, nandiyan po ba si Sir Ali Jan? Wala pa yata si Sir Al Jan. So siguro unahin na po natin si Sir Ramel Aquino. Sir Ramel, your turn po muna. Tatawagin ko na lang po ulit si Sir Al Jan ng Holy Spirit Elementary School. Sir Ramel, ready na po kayo?
Sir Ramel, nakamute po yata kayo.
Yan.
Ayan.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yes,
Sir,
okay.
palakihan ng konti. Hindi ko mabasa. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. Ay, sobrang laki na.
Ayan, sobrang laki naman.
Sumobra, ayan.
Yan.
Okay po.
Okay. So this was my working title, as discussed before. Developing guidelines in group discussion in practical research 2 among grade 12 students in remote classes. So I am the proponent. This is my rationale. Okay, so actually yesterday I was thinking no kung ano yung what would I include in my rationale. So initially konti pa lang yan, pero when I saw the presentation dinagdagan ko siya. So first and foremost, global trend in terms of transferring learning is remote. So that's why in conducting a group presentation, ayan, kasi remote class tayo or online So conducting online class plays an important role in our current situation. Then no existing orders stating guidelines in group presentation in practical research 2 during this remote classes. And then another consideration is a large class size. In a large class size, there are limitations. So attending to individual student as far as conducting research is concerned is too strenuous. So therefore, grouping is immensely recommended in a remote class. Then aside from the fact that collaboration and communication are essential skills for the 21st century, in creating meaningful learning and developing these skills, group work, when used to support learning goals in the electronic learning in practical research, is effective. Okay. Then more than provide peer support for struggling learners, collaborative groups stimulate conversation and teamwork. Then effective communication entails learning to listen as well as speak. And by listening to and interacting with their fellow students, begin to understand context from various perspectives. They understand how people with different experiences look and solve different problems. Hence, therefore, it develops also their critical thinking skill. Okay, so these are my questions, original questions. Although I made some revision. The first one, what are the practices of senior high school students in practical research 2, group presentation during remote learning? Then number 2, how do senior high school students view the effectiveness of these practices? So out of this effectiveness, I came up with the third research question. What best practices in group presentation in practical research 2 may emerge from the findings? Okay, when we identify the most effective practice. And then lastly, what guidelines may be conceived or may be developed based on the findings. For my literature review, I thought of the following. Okay, first theme, so I'll be looking for groupings in remote learnings, advantages of group or grouping class, then elements in grouping. My team 2 would focus on strategies in grouping students. It's more on reporting, group reporting. I'll be looking for related literature dealing on group reporting. Then my time frame, I wish to to utilize the 1 school year to finish my action research. Then my target subjects, I intend to use my grade 12 ABM, UMS, and GAS students. The number, I think I need to to think about it. I'll be using purposive sampling for my for the participants or respondents. And then also, if I can make use of the senior high school teachers teaching practical research for at least 3 years. So those teachers, I mean, those legitimate senior high school teachers. Kasi there are junior high school teachers who are teaching in the senior high school. Then, for my data collection, for my instruments, I will be using interview questionnaire, second interview protocol for focus group discussion or questionnaire and guide, survey questionnaire. So I'll also be developing my rating scale, if not Likert scale, or I'll be using mean, average. For the data collection technique, obviously I'll be using interview and focus group discussion and survey questionnaire. For my data analysis, to analyze my data, I'll be using percentage, mean, weighted mean, and rank. And these are my references. I had my initial, my research, kaya may mga reference po ako. So for my Gantt chart, I'm actually starting my preparation for Gantt chart. So I would like to begin by gathering related literature regarding group reporting. Okay. And then after that, I plan to conduct interview and focus group discussion for me to be able to get raw data in preparation for my research instruments. Yes, so, and then probably number 4, validation of my instrument. Number 6, administration of validated instrument, and so forth and so on. So that's all for my second task.
Thank you, Sir
Plan of
Ramel.
action.
Tingnan po
Welcome.
natin yung rationale.
Yes, yes.
Ayan. So, naglagay na po si Sir Ramel ng rationale niya. Meron tayo diyang global trend on conducting online class, playing important role in the current situation. So, okay naman po yun. Global trend at saka yung local focus natin or national goal which is directed by our research agenda given by DepEd, standard po yon. So, wala tayong masyadong masasabi doon kung hindi kung ano po yung mga na-publish. Ano po?
Yes.
Pero, doon po sa ipapasok na natin yung observation natin at kung bakit natin gagawan ito ng action, kailangan po ito ay very personal. So, okay lang po na personal ang labas nito. No? Kunwari, I observe that this is happening like this. There are no what do you call this one? There are no available standards for group reporting and so on. So ganun yung parang hugot po ang tawag natin dun sa part na yon. So okay lang pong humugot diyan. Okay po? So yun po ang rationale. Kasi yun yung dahilan kung bakit ninyo gagawin yung action research. By the way, before moving on with the different parts presented by Sir Ramel, kanina po kasi may nagtanong yung bang exploratory design, pwedeng action research? Ito po yung example ng exploratory design na action research. Si Sir Ramel kasi, ang kanyang sinasagot na problema ay kawalan ng protocol o standard sa group reporting. Tama, Sir Ramel?
Yes, yes, yes.
Opo. So yun ang kanyang major problem. So ang kailangan niya ay action for this. At ang action niya ay magkaroon siya ng isang protocol or mga best practices. Okay? Para sa pagkakandak ng group reporting. So kaya papasok ito na exploratory kasi makikita nyo naman yung kanyang design, ano? Nag-i-interview siya, after ng interview, tsaka pa lang siya makakagawa ng instrument. From the instrument, kukuha ulit siya ng data para makakuha siya ng best practices. So this is an example of what is being asked a while ago. It's an exploratory research, but it's an action research. Okay po? Yan.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sir Ramel pa, ano ulit? Pa sa baba. Ayun. Yung question niyo po sa task 1 yan naman, di ba? Okay po?
Yes. Yes po.
Okay. For the theme, so maganda rin yung nilagay ni Sir Ramel. Meron na siyang general na theme na dalawa. One is online group reporting. Sir Ramel, palagyan ng online. Kasi online ka di ba?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Online. Sa theme 2 yata po.
Sa team.
Saan
po
sa
yun?
theme 2,
Team
online
2.
group reporting.
Yan.
Ayan. Okay. Tapos
Siguro.
okay na po yung groupings in remote learning. Okay na po tayo dyan sa team 1.
Okay.
Ayan. So, another clarification po, ito pong binibigay ko sa inyong template. Template ko po ito. Ang tingin ko, pag meron kayo nito, mas madali ninyong magagawa yung proposal. Proposals po kasi usually are narrative, di ba? Mahirap pong magsulat agad-agad ng narrative nang wala kayong skeleton kung ano talaga ang dapat, anong framework ninyo for the different sections of the proposal. Kaya ko po ito binibigay sa inyo para makatulong later on na isusulat ko na ang rationale, ano ang content, di ba? Kung nakabullet na yan, mas madali ninyong isulat. Okay po? So again, hindi po ito from DepEd. Pero yung pinresent ko po kanina, from DepEd po yun. Papakita ko po sa inyo saan natin kinuha base doon sa conversation namin ni Sir Ian. Tapos, okay naman sir doon sa targets and participants. Okay,
Yes,
doon na lang tayo sa data analysis.
Yes.
So, ang data collection mo sir, okay din, interview and FGD. Kaya lang sir, paki-clarify na lang sa review board ninyo yung mga ethical considerations, lalo na po yung mga online data gathering. Ano po?
Yes.
Okay. Sa data analysis, sir, ang ma-analyze mo lang pag yan ang procedure ay yung survey results. Kasi lumalabas descriptive statistics po yan, ano? So, sa pangalawa po, siguro mauna, sir, yung interview. Sa interview, kailangan mo i-transcribe lahat siya, sir. Tapos thematic analysis siguro or coding.
Coding.
Okay.
Thematic analysis.
Opo.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Ayan. Sa Gantt chart tayo, sir. Ayan. So para po sa mga nakikinig, ganito po natin ang ganito po supposedly natin gagawin ang ating task 2. Ano po? Hindi man kayo makapag-present, pwede na po kayong mag-revise. Ayan. Dito po sa activities, kailangan lahat nakalagay. Even the conceptualization of your research. So kunwari, natapos nyo yung writing of research proposal ng, ano po ba ngayon? October. Matatapos na yun, November. Diba? So dapat, kasama po yun. So number 1, conceptualization of the research or the proposal. O di buong October po yon hanggang November 1st week. Kunwari po, ano? Tapos literature review. Okay po yan. Tapos conduct of interview kasi ito yung una ni sir. Exploratory kasi siya. Okay yan. Pero bago siguro nun sir,
yes.
Pwedeng i-ano mo na yung ethical considerations. Like for example, informed consent. Ipa-factor in mo rin po yon doon sa data gathering. So may schedule ka din po dapat doon. Pati mga orientation with your students, etc. So talagang lahat ng activities na sunod-sunod mo siyang gagawin, nakalagay po dyan. Okay po?
Yes, yes po.
Okay. So dadagdagan pa po yan ni sir.
Okay.
Sa mga susunod na araw. Okay po?
Yes po. I will.
Okay. Maraming
Thank you,
salamat,
ma'am.
Sir Ramel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Ramel.
Thank you. Welcome.
So we have another presenter, ma'am, si Sir Ronel Aljan from Holy Spirit Elementary School.
Yep. Hello. Ako na lang.
Yes, Sir Ronel. Good afternoon po.
Wait. Ito. Yan. Nakikita na po ba, ma'am?
Wala pa po, sir. Okay na po, ayan.
Yan. Okay. So, actually, I presented din last time. So, medyo kadugtong na po ito. So, yung working title ko po, the effect of 1 point or 1-page trivia on the test results in science of selected grade 5 students of elementary school. Okay, so sa next na po ako yung proponent niya. Sa rationale po, nagawa ko po kasi before nyo na-discuss. So medyo hindi ko na masyadong naano po. So yung ano lang po sa akin yung rationale ko doon, yung kung mai-improve ba ng 1-point trivia yung test result sa science ng mga students. Okay, so yun din yung question ko din. Kasi nagawa ko po siya before you discuss yung presentation niyo, ma'am. Okay, then sa team ko naman na nakuha, sa literature, nag-browse ako ng mga lit na makakapagbigay ng point na maganda nga yung trivia, nakakatulong, no? So for example, trivia is known as details, consideration, or pieces of information. Yan po. So medyo mahaba siya. Then also next, according to aging, stated that trivia increase brain health. So maybe gagamit ko rin siya, lalo na ngayon nga naman sa elementary, ma'am, yung mode namin is modular. So napansin ko kailangan ng student ng more reading materials. So ang naisip ko yung 1-page trivia, no. So pupunin ko ng about isang topic yung 1 page na yon about sa focus milk na competencies, ma'am. Okay, then sa next, ma'am, time frame. Yan. 1 quarter. So actually it's before ang second quarter, November to February. So isang quarter siya. Then yung target ko or participants, yung advisory class ko, isang section, consists of 39 students. Then under siya ng purposive sampling. Okay, then ano yung mga instrument na gagamit ko? So first, yung 1-page trivia, yun nga po, gagawa ko ng 1 page na siksik ng mga trivia about sa basic competencies for that week. Okay, then gagamit din ako sa kanya ng teacher-made na post-test, ay pre-test and post-test, diagnostic and achievement test for that quarter. Okay, then yung nabigay nyo pong feedback nakaraan, may guided interview o yung perception nila about dun sa 1-page program, 1-page trivia na project na yon. So what will be my data? Pre-test, post-test design for single group lang. Okay, then nag-search din kasi ako, nag-poll siya ng mixed method design. So actually, it's a transformative. So kukuha ka muna ng quantitative before qualitative na interpretation, ma'am. So ito yung na-search ko about sa mixed method design. Then anong gagamitin kong data analysis? First is descriptive or yung babrowse lang natin, documental analysis, ma'am. And for the interview, I have yung thematic analysis. So anong team ba yung more sa sinasagot nila sa interview questions ko, ma'am? Okay, so ito po yung nakita kong reference doon. So nasa-search po ako. Yan. Then yung ano ko, ma'am, Gantt chart. Yan. So actually since November sana simula yung magkakandak ako ng paggawa ng module, ay ng 1-page trivia yung paghahanda. Then starting December, bibigay ko na yung November pre-test. Tapos November hanggang February na po yung giving of materials pati interview question. Then sa dulo po, ano na, ma'am, post-test. Then also yung results na, conducting na of results. So ayun po yung naisip ko, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Sir Ronel. Sir, wala namang problem dahil naayos na natin yung title nito last time.
Apo.
So nandun po siguro tayo sa theme, pero patingin po muna yung title. Kasi dun usually natin diniderive yung themes para sa ating literature review.
Okay
so
po.
tama po yon. Yung isa ay 1-page trivia. So kukuha kayo ng mga literature on 1-page trivia. Ano po? Tapos, ang pwede siguro nating isa pang theme ay yung developmental aspect ng developmental growth po ba yun? Developmental growth ng grade 5 students. Saan sila nagpo-fall at bakit magiging effective ito sa kanila, yung trivia ninyo na 1 page. Yan. So, developmental growth of the intended participants. Yan. Baka meron din tayong makita nito, under po niyang theme 2 na yan, baka may makita tayo ng mga studies telling us that the one-page trivia will really be effective to these
Yes
kinds
po.
of learners or these ages of learners. Okay po, Sir Ronel? Okay po. So next po, punta tayo sa... Ang rationale, nabanggit ko naman na po kanina
Apo,
no,
ma'am.
kung
Apo.
anong mga
Apo.
kailangan. Okay po.
Ito, ma'am.
Okay. And then, ayun po. One-page trivia sheet. Okay naman ako sa mga instruments. Nabanggit na rin natin ito last time. For the data collection, you will be using pre-test, post-test muna.
Apo.
But you will have interviews, diba?
Apo, ma'am. Apo.
Okay. And then, descriptive analysis and thematic analysis. Wala naman pong problema. Kailangan ko po yung sa Gantt chart.
Apo, isa Gantt chart, ma'am. Yun yung medyo, hindi ko napansin, meron pa pala sa dulo to.
Opo. So, yung Gantt chart po, sir, kailangan very, very
Apo.
specific kung ano yung mga kailangan. Ano, katulad ng nabanggit ko kay Sir Ramel, nag-start po tayo sa proposal.
Apo, ma'am, yung proposal po.
Etc. So, dapat maliwanag po per activity, kailan nyo siya gagawin, and so on. Okay po, sir?
Apo, sir.
Okay.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Okay. Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Ronel. Aljan. Ma'am, question lang po. In terms po, would it be a factor to test the validity and reliability of a research in terms of span of study? Because the two presenter present, one is a whole year round, the other one is a 1 quarter.
Ano po ang tanong?
Would it be a factor to test the validity and reliability of a research in terms of span of study? Kasi yung iba pong research, 1 year po ba talaga siya i-conduct? Or would it be a half sem lang siya or 6 months?
Kaya po ako naglagay ng Gantt chart kasi diyan madidetermine kung pang 1 year ba siya, pang 6 months or 3 months, ganon, o kaya more than a year, ganon po. So, depende po kasi yon sa scope nung study na ika-conduct. Katulad nung kay Sir Ramel, exploratory po ito eh. So, medyo mahirap-hirap dahil unang-una, hindi na normal yung kanyang data collection dahil hindi nga po normal yung sitwasyon natin ngayon. So, that's one. Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na, kaya mo yan gawin in 1 month time. Diba? Kasi nga po, ay exploratory design siya. So, baka kailanganin niya ng a year para dito. Then, pag tinignan natin, developmental po kasi. So, ang phases po kasi ni Sir Ramel ay una, mag-exploratory siya. And then after that, kukunin niya yung lahat ng best practices. And then gagawa siya ng protocol. From the protocol, i-validate pa niya yon. So parang mahabang proseso sa kanya. Yung kay Sir Ronel, mas maikli. Yes, kasi ang kailangan niya ay i-test kung itong ginawa niyang one-page designs ay effective. Medyo magkaiba po sila. Kaya po magkaiba rin ang kanilang range of activities at saka timeline. Ayan. So nakadepende po yan sa klase ng research, klase ng questions, at klase ng products na kailangan yung magawa after the specific proposal. Ayan. So hindi po siya talaga kailangan in 6 months. Kung ganon, ipipeg natin na ganon, kailangan ma-review lahat ng inyong activities. Kaya ba ito in 6 months? Diba? Ito bang part na to kaya in a week? Ito ba kaya in 2 days? Ganon. Yung palang pagkuha ng expert's opinion, ang haba nun kasi ang hirap kumuha ng expert, that's one, di ba? Pag nakakuha ka na ng expert, pag bigay mo sa kanila, bibigyan mo sila ng certain period of time to do the validation. Hindi mo yan masasabihan na, pwede ba ibalik nyo na sa akin after a week? Hindi, expert mo yan eh. Susunod ka kung anong gusto niyang timeline, di ba? Minsan na maabot yan 2 buwan, hindi mo pa rin ang makuha. Diba? So, depende talaga siya. So, kung ano yung mga nakalista doon sa Gantt chart. The reason why the Gantt chart is very important.
Okay.
Okay po, Ma'am Sharon?
Yes, okay. So, Ma'am, that would be your final na po natin. Or
may konti na lang, 1 minute siguro.
Okay.
I'll be sharing my slide. Okay. Ayan. Ay, sorry. Ito pala Okay, this will just take about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, this was the format given to me by Sir Ian. So, nung dinesign ko yung inyong template, yung template number 2 is, or task number 2 is really from me. So, ano yon, contribution ko yon for you para mas mapadali sana yung inyong mga pag-identify ng mga different portions. But this one is given to me by Sir Ian. And so from here, I devised another template for you. Makikita nyo dito, yung proposal format ninyo, nakalagay dyan, data gathering, participants, and so on, data collection, etc. In-expand ko lang siya para mas maliwanag later on kapag dinidescribe nyo. So I came up with this. Ayan. Ganun pa rin naman, you have the rationale. If you go back, you still have the context and rationale. That's the first part. So, ina-narrative nyo lang yun later, you have part 1, di ba? You have the action research questions, proposed innovation or intervention, action research methods. Sa methods tayo nagkakatalo, ano? Kasi sa methods, ayan, pinapalagay ko sa inyo yung target participants, yung instrument, at yung data collection methods. Like, for example, plan. Ang guide question niya dito ay, how did we design it? Okay? Pagdating naman sa act, let's try it. So, carry out the action plan. Okay? Pagdating naman sa observe, how was it? Yan ang kailangan yung i-factor in. Pagkatapos, discuss. So, how can we sustain it? So, doon sa nilagay ninyong intended innovations at saka mga activities, ipipeg ninyo yon sa kung saan siya. Like, for example, si Sir Ramel, interview questions. If yun ay kasama doon sa plan, how did we design it, doon niya ilalagay sa plan. Okay po? And then, naglagay ako ng ethical consideration. Wala ito doon sa binigay ni Sir Ian, pero you need to have this kasi kung nagkakanda kayo ng research, more often than not, your students are minors. So it's very important that documents would be having this section. Okay, so yun ang gusto kong i-suggest sa inyong lahat, kay Sir Ian din, maglagay tayo ng ethical considerations. It's very important. Okay? And then the Gantt chart. I discussed to you a while ago the importance of the Gantt chart. Okay? It determines the time that it would take for you to be able to complete your entire research. Yan. Kapag meron kayong pababayaran kay Sir Ian, nandyan yung cost estimates, and then your plan for dissemination and utilization, plus the references. Okay? So, yun po yung inyong AR proposal. So, you need to evaluate your AR. Okay ba yung plan? May evidence ba na kung makukuha kayo? You need to do reflection. Yung bang inyong research ay na-enhance yung buhay ng inyong participants? Okay. Yung project nyo ba ay na-address na yung problem? Yung bang action kayo ba nakakolect ng tamang data? Complete enough? Okay. Did the action researcher collaborate with others? Meron ba kayong mga friends and critical friends dyan? Yung bang action research ninyo ay nagkaroon ng magandang solution sa isang problema? Na-report nyo ba ito sa audience? Nag-present ba kayo? Yeah. Some tips, please do not give up. Okay? Enlist the help of your colleagues. Keep a positive attitude. Matatapos nyo rin yan. Baka kasabay natin ang pandemic o mauuna pa kayo na matapos ang action research. Be prepared to compromise. Be generous. Kapag may nagtanong sa inyo, answer them. Okay? To the best of your ability. Go public, you need to present. Join a local research, action research group. Establish a reputation for success. Publish as much as possible. And have faith that your own knowledge will be disseminated later on. Okay? Some other tips. Sabi ko nga last time, you consult. Ano? No pressure. Chill, chill. Chill lang ha. Huwag masyadong ma-pressure. Do some physical activities. No FB during the writing moment. Small steps lead to big goals. Pag tinignan natin, yung ginagawa natin ngayon, day 1, task 1. Day 2, task 2. Hindi natin binibigla. Kasi mahirap po yun. So, dahan-dahan lang. Okay? So some tips, more tips, how to evade procrastination. One is time blocking. You have to identify a certain part of the day where you can probably answer a specific portion in the table I am presenting to you, dun sa template, ano? Para at least, kunwari Monday, maglalagay ako ng isang bullet for rationale. Tuesday, isa pang bullet. Wednesday, isa pang bullet. Yung buong linggo, tapos na si rationale. Kahit papano, di ba? Or what we call the Pomodoro technique. Ayan. So you pick a task, set 25 minutes timer, work on your task until the time is out, and then take a 5-minute break, and then do this every 4, take 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, break. So ito po yung aking contact details. Maraming salamat po ulit. Sir, Ma'am Sharon, tapos na po ako. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Morales. So siguro muna mag-picture taking muna tayo with Ma'am Morales for our second series of our
Second
research
day.
FLEXI.
Okay.
Yes. So maybe may I request to please pakibukas po ang ating mga camera para po sa ating picture taking with Ma'am. Okay, si Sir Lon Cadiz. Okay.
Sige ma'am, smile lang po mga participants. Ayan. Open lang po yung camera po Nag-screenshot po ako.
Sana kayo ay may natutunan ngayong hapon. Makumpleto ang task 2.
Maraming salamat sa inyo. Okay. Thank you so much, Ma'am Marifaz Morales. Maraming po kaming natutunan talaga po. And for sure, right after this series, marami po kaming proposal na matatanggap po si Sir Ian. And with all those proposal and updates and information, clarification, nandito na po, tatawagin ko na po ang ating Senior Education Program Specialist, Planning and Research, si Sir Ian Kenneth D. Magabilin. Hi, Sir Ian.
Hello po, magandang hapon. Naririnig po ba?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
I will just take this opportunity po to thank our resource speaker, Dr. Maripaz E. Morales. Alam ko po napaka-busy ni ma'am. Kaninang umaga nga po, which was our previous schedule, si ma'am po kasi ay merong equally important engagement with the Association of Southeast Asian Teacher Education Network. So siya po ay isa ring resource speaker or the keynote speaker for that event. Kaya po na-move po ang ating activity ng hapon. But for next week, Ma'am Paz, okay po tayo for the morning session?
Yes, okay po tayo for the morning session.
Okay po.
That's November 6. Tama pa, Sir Ian?
Ma'am? Session number 3 pa lang, ma'am. By next... sorry po.
Tama, November 6?
Yes, ma'am. November 6 po.
Yes. Okay ako ng morning.
Yes. So, next week po tayo ay morning ang ating schedule po. So, next po, Sir Lon, pa-next po ng slide. So, I'm requesting po everyone to take the screenshot po of our evaluation link. So, ito po yung ating evaluation link for session 2. Now, the evaluation link is needed po for us to check po your attendance. No? So, yung kanina po kasi nandito si ma'am ng ang ating pong mahal na SDS. So, kanina po ay nasa 600 plus po tayo. Ngayon po ay nasa 400 plus na lang. So, baka may mga technical issues din po ang ating mga kasama. So, pakishare na lang din po sa kanila ang session evaluation link para po makomplete ang kanilang attendance. Okay po? Sige po. Next po, Sir Lon. Okay po, ang ating pong session 3 will be on November 6. So, ang topic po natin, papakonfirm ko din po kay ma'am, is reporting the action research, the templates, and the narratives. So, yan po ang ating magiging discussion next week. And then, sa poster po na finorward ko sa mga research coordinators, ito po ang mga session links. So, for the session recordings, yan po. And for the task sheets. So yung mga naghahanap po kanina ng task sheet, i-access nyo lang po lagi yung link na yan para kung may update po or meron tayong task sheet for session 3, i-upload na lang po namin. Kasi mahirap din po, lalo na sa office po ng research, dahil ako po ay nag-iisa, ang hirap po, ako po ay nagmamando ng madaming pagsisend ng email. So nilagyan ko na lang po sa Google Form. Next po, sir. Okay po, for the research coordinators, kasi kanina po may mga issue din po tayo na hindi po nila na-receive yung link. Nagre-request po ako sa ating mga dear principals po na yung mag-update po ng kanilang research coordinators, yung pakisagutan po lamang ng research coordinators yung QC research coordinators na link. Kasi marami pong schools, parang mga 5 teachers po ata ang sumagot. So coordinators lang po ang sasagot sa link na po yan. And then yung mga research coordinators po, as part of your responsibility for this activity is to send us the list of participants na uma-attend po as approved by the principal. Kasi may issue and concern po with regard to our first session na wala pong abiso o approval man lang ni principal but the teacher is attending. So para po wala po tayong isyong ganyan, mabuti po na lahat po ng ating activity or sino po ang attendees ay dapat po inform ang ating mahal na principal. So ang ating pong research coordinators ay i-monitor po ang attendance and yung pag-accomplish po ng mga co-participants sa ating session evaluation. Next po. Special thanks po sa ating pong butihing resource speaker. Napaka-busy po ni ma'am pero may time po talaga siya for us to help us po. And just to clarify po what she mentioned po earlier, na yung mga templates po, yung mga forms na binibigay po niya ay para po sa atin for us to be able to craft our action research proposal. So yung hindi ko na po pinasasubmit dahil may concern din po sa ating field na medyo tasky nga po yung ibang worksheets po ni ma'am. So baka dagdag sa inyong ginagawa lalo na pag pure teaching, nagtuturo po yung iba. So ayun po. Guide nyo na lang po yung mga task sheet ni ma'am. We will have a separate orientation naman po for our research coordinators on the process, on the forms, and kung ano po yung mga attachments na dapat ipasa sa division office for the completion po ng inyong research. And then we also would like to thank the schools division office city officials, like Ma'am Jenny Corpus. Kanina po nandito po siya, umalis lang po siya for a meeting with QCPSTA. Dr. Freddy Avendaño, Sir Mark Walter A. Padilla, Dr. Namoro, our Chief and the Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Bagano, and our Assistant Department Head 3, Dr. Jesusa Arbechong, the Chief of the SGOD, the EPS of SGOD, nandyan po si Sir Arnel. Our education program supervisors po who are attending and the PSDS and other SGOD personnel. Ayan po. Sir Lon, pabalik din po kanina sa unang slides. Ayan po. Pinapapasalamatan po natin ang SDO Pasig City. Pasensya na po sa mga participants po. Nagkaroon po tayo ng technical problem po kanina dahil hindi po naipasa ang pagkaka-host. Kasi po, to tell you honestly, this platform po is shared to us by SDO Pasig City. From our previous ASDS, which is now the Schools Division Superintendent of Pasig, Dr. Maria Eva Lu Concepcion Agustin, Mr. Ernie Pamor, the SEPS for Planning and Research, and Mr. Ernesto Elasco. Next po. Yan, salamat po sa ating mga elementary and secondary school heads sa lagi pong pag-support sa ating advocacy on research, the Lead District Research Core Group, school research coordinators, and mga attendees po. So maraming salamat po and Sir Lon, next. See you po on our session 3. So again po, para po makakuha ng link, paki-update po ang ng inyong research coordinators po, yung mga school. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Salamat po, Sir Ian. Salamat po sa organizers.
Salamat po, Ma'am Edna.
Okay, thank you, Sir Ian. Once again, maraming salamat po muli, Ma'am Marie Paz Morales. Sa susunod po ulit. So, thank you so much, Ma'am.
Yes
See you
po,
on our...
maraming salamat. See you on our next session.
Okay, thank you so much, researchers. Thank you so much. So, happy weekend po, happy long weekend po. God bless you and keep safe.
Bye po.
Bye po. Thank you.